founding of the New Age movement can be traced back to the 19th century in Theosophy. This is the group that largely popularized this belief that we are heading out of the age of Pisces and into the astrological age of Aquarius, which to them will be an age of unity of humanity, an age of enlightenment, a spiritual age of consciousness, so to speak.
It's very clear, yes, there's going to be a one world, political, economic, religion, and this is what all the globalists, the elite, the high-level occultists, the high-level New World Order people, this is what they're wanting. This is what the Bible pretty much clearly predicts as well. And this is obviously what we're moving to.
The Freemason and One World Government advocate Zbigniew Brzezinski said the following in his work Between Two Ages, quote, "The technotronic era involves the gradual appearance of a more controlled society. Such a society would be dominated by an elite, unrestrained by traditional values. Soon it will be possible to assert almost continuous surveillance over every citizen and maintain up-to-date complete files containing even the most personal information about the citizen." This admitted New World Order agenda to create a one-world government that rules over humanity is not only political, it is also spiritual and based on what is known as the New Age. This can be verified with irrefutable documentation. Most of the Christians doing this kind of work have been silenced, so I set out across the border to speak to the few researchers that are still left. There are not many researchers left who have not been deceived by the New Age. Speaking with these people helped confirm my position even more. The New World Order exists. The elite are occultists who adhere to New Age doctrines, and they are responsible for this new trend of discrediting Christianity, Jesus Christ, and the Christian New World Order researchers. There is a voluminous amount of data that I have obtained in my research on this subject, but after watching this production, do not believe me. Don't believe a word of what I'm saying. Do your own independent research and verify this for yourself.
The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society, and we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings. For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy.
Here's the way they look at it. Here's their metaphor. Adam and Eve were held prisoner in the Garden of Eden by an unjust, cruel, and vindictive God. Until Lucifer, through his agent Satan, set man free from this garden by giving him the gift of intellect. Through the use of intellect, man will conquer the earth, will conquer nature, and will himself become God. It's taught in every Masonic temple in this land, every secret brotherhood, every secret society, every mystical temple, every occult organization teaches the Luciferian philosophy.
To understand the New World Order and the New Age worldview, we must go back into history and examine its origins. But first we must define our terms. By New Age, I am speaking about a worldview that has many facets and components, such as astrological and zodiacal beliefs in the New Age concept, channeling higher powers to achieve knowledge, meditation, the belief that all is one or forms of monism, the belief that we can attain godhood, esotericism, or in other words, reinterpreting ancient texts to find hidden meanings and unify all religious belief into one, the belief that we need a one-world system for the coming age of Aquarius. By New World Order, I am talking about a political agenda to create a one-world system, one-world government, one-world economy, unity of humanity into one organism, control over humanity, and submission of the masses.
but today the largest countries of the world have agreed a global plan for recovery and reform. I think a new world order is emerging, and with it the foundations of a new and progressive era of international cooperation.
To understand what is going on today with respect to the New World Order and the New Age movement, we must have recourse to the 19th century organization called the Theosophical Society. This organization in particular, among others, is largely responsible for the modern New Age movement and the political doctrine known as the New World Order. The founder of this organization was a woman named Helena Petrovna Blavatsky. Born August 12, 1831, Helena Blavatsky was very interested early in her life in the supernatural and the mythological. From 1848 to 1858, Blavatsky would travel the world to ascertain an understanding of the religious traditions of the world. She claimed to have traveled to South America, Egypt, Canada, France, Greece, Mexico, Tibet, India, Germany, and England during this time. It is said that during this travel, she learned many mysteries, secrets, and occult knowledge from every walk of life. With all of this new esoteric information in her mind, she moved to New York in 1873. Then in 1875, she formed an occult organization called the Theosophical Society. She founded this society with two men, Colonel Henry Steele Olcott and William Quan Judge. According to Olcott, Theosophy already had thousands of members and branches all over the world by 1885. After New York, Blavatsky and Olcott established the Theosophical headquarters in India, and the membership roster grew increasingly as time went on. Blavatsky's influence came from her writings. Her first book was entitled Isis Unveiled, published in 1877. She started a magazine in 1887 called Lucifer Magazine. Her principal work, The Secret Doctrine, was then published in 1888. She then wrote The Key to Theosophy and The Voice of Silence. These works are now famous, and contained in these writings are the doctrines that helped mold the New Age movement to what it is today. It is said that part of Blavatsky's book, The Secret Doctrine, was channeled to her through an ascended master or highly evolved being called Kuthumi, who spoke to her. Belief in these ascended masters who communicate to humanity is very crucial when studying the New Age. We will look at that doctrine later. The age concept that says humanity is leaving the age of Pisces and entering the golden era or age of Aquarius was popularized by Blavatsky. She taught Theosophists, at any rate, some of them who understand the hidden meaning of the universally expected avatars, messiahs, socioshis, and Christs, know that it is no end of the world, but the consummation of the age, i.e. the close of a cycle, which is now fast approaching. Again, the messianic cycle of the man connected with Pisces. It is a cycle, historical, and not very long, but very occult, lasting about 2,155 solar years. It occurred 2,410 and 255 BC, or when the equinox entered into the sign of Ram, and again into that of Pisces. When it enters in a few years the sign of Aquarius, psychologists will have some extra work to do, and the psychic idiosyncrasies of humanity will enter on a great change. These Theosophists teach that Jesus was simply a representation of the age of Pisces, and that he was an initiate into the mystery schools, or cults of spiritual teachers and masters. They teach people that the new age of Aquarius is going to be that of a utopia, where the world unites into a one-world system, the exiting out of Jesus' age, and the entering into a new world teacher's age. They say each age is accompanied by a great world teacher, be it Buddha, Jesus, etc. So for the advent of the age of Aquarius, they claim a new world teacher will guide humanity into it. Blavatsky was reluctant to fuse these theosophic beliefs with politics, however. Nonetheless, she still advocated monism and a one-world brotherhood, or uniting, of mankind. In Blavatsky's book, The Key to Theosophy, she lists three main goals of theosophy: universal brotherhood of humanity without distinction of race, color, or creed; to promote the study of the world's religions and to investigate the hidden mysteries of nature. As time went on, Theosophy got very popular. Many prominent figures would join the Theosophical Society from all over the world, and many popular doctrines of today's New Age movement would be molded and shaped by them. Theosophy is the first major New Age group, and they are largely responsible for many of the modern New Age beliefs, including the belief that Jesus represented the sun god. After studying the occult and the esoteric in depth, I have come to the conclusion that the Zeitgeist movement and the Zeitgeist films are based on Theosophy, Freemasonry, and the New Age. For those who are unfamiliar, in 2007, a man named Peter Joseph released a film called Zeitgeist. This film received millions of views on the internet and became very popular. Then in 2008, Zeitgeist Addendum, the sequel, came out. From there, Peter Joseph established the Zeitgeist movement.
Whether Zeitgeist was a film that was intended by Peter Joseph or whoever was behind it to be what it ended up being, I don't know. But I can say that the message that's being expressed by Zeitgeist is without a doubt the most clear depiction of the mystery school ideology. And it's done in such a way to be, it's kind of what I've described as a sort of mystery schools for dummies. It's a way to get people that normally wouldn't be setting foot to any various secret societies. It's a way to indoctrinate them and get them to believe in the same sort of elitist mindset without having to go through any particular initiation. It's also usually accompanied with the idea of pride. That is that the people believe that what they believe is only for a select few, and that sort of has this way of sticking with them, and that nobody believes what I believe, and so it's sort of this elitist mindset that comes with that as well.
The first Zeitgeist film was divided into 3 sections. The second section was about 9/11 being an inside job. The third section was about the corruption of the Federal Reserve. I have no real issue with the last 2 sections, but since the release of the first Zeitgeist film, Peter Joseph, the creator, has distanced himself from the 9/11 issue altogether. This makes me wonder if the only reason he spoke about 9/11 in the first film was to get the 9/11 Truth movement on board with his agenda. The first section of the film is what I have an issue with. Contained in this section is the modern belief system of the New Age movement, the Theosophical Society, and Freemasonry.
With the Zeitgeist, it's, Satan's good at what he does, bottom line. And the first one, what they do is they come right out, and in the first segment, I think the first 38 minutes, they just go after Jesus Christ, his deity. Basically, what they try to do is convince everyone that Jesus Christ is just a knockoff of Horus and a lot of the other pagan deities, and they try to draw all these parallels and similarities. These parallels and similarities have all been debunked by Bible scholars and things. In fact, I think there's even a couple challenges up on the internet, the Zeitgeist Challenge, where they offer money if they can actually. So they've been debunked. I've done, oh my word, I don't know how many teachings debunking both movies. But if somebody were to see that for the first time and not know any different, oh, hey, it sounds convincing, sounds, this or that. And so what they've got to do is discredit the Word of God, the deity of Jesus Christ.
As Theosophy grew, it produced influential figures such as Annie Wood Besant, born October 1st, 1847. She was a Marxist and a socialist. Besant was so inclined towards socialism that she defended it in public debates. One such debate was conducted between her and a man by the name of G.W. Foote, a secularist who supported republicanism. The debate was held at the Hall of Science on February 2nd, 9th, 16th, and 23rd, 1887, a 4-night debate series. The title of the debate was, "Is Socialism Sound?" Angelique Richardson and Chris Willis from the University of London Institute for English Studies When commenting on Besant's worldview, note, quote, "The socialist feminist Annie Besant joined the Marxist-based Social Democrat Federation, SDF, in the 1880s. Annie Besant met the founder of Theosophy, Helena Blavatsky, in 1890, and she quickly read Blavatsky's material. Besant recorded her first acquaintance with Blavatsky. She wrote, quote, "I was standing with my hand in her firm grip and looking for the first time in this life straight into the eyes of HPB. We rose to go, and for a moment veil lifted, and two brilliant, piercing eyes met mine, and with a yearning throb in the voice, 'Oh, my dear Mrs. Besant, if you would only come with us.' I said a commonplace, polite goodbye, and turned away with some inanely courteous and evasive remark. 'Child,' she said to me long afterwards, 'your pride is terrible. You are as proud as Lucifer himself.'" Besant would get involved with the secret society known as Freemasonry. In 1902, she established the International Order of Co-Freemasonry, and then set up lodges all over the world with theosophic underpinnings. Theosophy, Freemasonry, and Marxism are all connected with the New Age movement. Besant would become president of the Theosophical Society in 1908. As I give you the history and lay the framework for the origins of the modern New World Order ideology and the New Age movement, it is important to note the role of Freemasonry. As previously noted, Theosophy and Freemasonry were somewhat affiliated in the late 19th century. In fact, Helena Blavatsky received an honorary degree of Apprentice Companion, Perfect Mistress, Sublime Elect Scotch Lady, from the Rite of Adoption. She was awarded with these titles by the 33rd degree Freemasons John Yarker, M. Kaspari, and A.D. Lowenstock. Here is a reprint of the Masonic certificate that Blavatsky received. There are many different views on the origins of Freemasonry. I will present the one which I feel is the most evidenced and well documented. Modern speculative Freemasonry wasn't officially established until 1717 in London with the founding of the First Grand Lodge. Prior to that, there were Masonic lodges in the late 16th century. You first have operative Masonry involving those who would work with stone and who were part of a stone guild that built cathedrals and buildings in the Middle Ages. Around the 17th century, these operative Masons started accepting people into their craft who were not simply stoneworkers. Soon Masonry was not simply limited to stoneworkers. They then later developed into modern speculative Freemasonry of today, which involves secret handshakes, codes, symbolism, mythology, and legendary. The earliest documentation of the word Freemason is in the calendar of the coroner's rolls of the City of London. This is dated 1378 AD, edited by Reginald Sharp and published in 1913. Commenting on the origins of Freemasonry, Harry Carr remarks, quote, "It developed in Britain out of the building trades and fraternities, whose history goes back some 600 years in England. I do insist, however, that our present-day speculative Freemasonry is directly descended from the operative Masonry, whose beginnings we can trace back to the earliest record of organization among Masons in 1356. As far back as 1917, as modern Masonry was already 200 years old, people were recognizing the connection Freemasonry and Theosophy had. In the 1917 work Heresies Exposed, W. Host remarks, quote, "Freemasonry viewed doctrinally is Theosophy." With respect to the previously mentioned Zeitgeist films and the Zeitgeist movement, I will demonstrate that after a thorough study into these teachings of Theosophy and Freemasonry, it becomes quite clear that this film and movement, which has captivated so many truth seekers, is nothing more than the externalization of Theosophy, Freemasonry, and the New Age to the public. This is important because if it turns out that Zeitgeist is leading people into Theosophical and Freemasonic ideologies, it means that rather than standing against the New World Order One World Government agenda, like the anti-New World Order movement is supposed to be doing, truth seekers are actually associating themselves with ideologies and organizations that are connected to the New World Order, which I will also demonstrate. I will now qualify this hypothesis since I have laid the foundation for Theosophy and Freemasonry. Theosophists and Freemasons, as part of their esoteric doctrine, taught that Jesus was the sun god, the S-U-N in the sky, and that he was based on the age of Pisces within the zodiac. The Marxist Theosophist Annie Besant taught her students, quote, "Then the sun retrograded into Pisces at the time of the birth of Jesus Christ, the Pisces influence being shown by cures performed by stepping into pools of water, Christ choosing his first apostles from fishermen," unquote. Similarly, the founder of Theosophy, Helena Blavatsky, taught, quote, "Ichthus, a fish, some of his early disciples were fishermen, Pisces, a conventional shape for the fish," unquote. The notorious Freemason Manly Palmer Hall taught, quote, "During the age of Pisces, the fish was the symbol of divinity, and the sun god fed the multitude with 2 small fishes." In another context, Blavatsky reinforces Theosophy's belief about Jesus, quote, "For the salvation of the world, this was the sun, shorn of his golden rays, and crowned with blackened ones, symbolizing this loss as the thorns. Jesus and even Apollonius of Tyana were but epitomizers of the history of the sun." These doctrines are very sacred to Theosophists and Freemasons. The first section of the first film, Zeitgeist, externalizes these same Theosophic and Freemasonic beliefs, fringe views that historians and scholars dismiss. Zeitgeist repeats, quote, "Jesus is the Son of God. Now Jesus is the figure who ushers in the age following Aries, the age of Pisces," unquote. Now, noticing these parallels, one might think that Peter Joseph, the creator of Zeitgeist, was ignorant of the fact that he was indoctrinating people into Theosophic and Freemasonic ideologies. However, Zeitgeist is not only spreading these doctrines of Theosophy and Freemasonry, but Zeitgeist also associates itself with prominent Theosophists, Freemasons, New Agers, and occultists in their own transcript for the film, leaving little debate as to the connection it has to these groups. Zeitgeist listed all of its sources for the film in its online transcript, and among the names of people appealed to are Helena Blavatsky, the founder of Theosophy, the Freemason Albert Churchward, New Ager Acharya S., New Ager occultist and theosophical apologist Jordan Maxwell, the Druid Gerald Massey, Edward Carpenter, the socialist and acquaintance of Theosophist, Freemason, and Marxist Annie Besant, the Freemason Manly P. Hall, and the Druid Godfrey Higgins, who is associated with Helena Blavatsky. The fact that Zeitgeist chooses to associate itself with these prominent Freemasons, Theosophists, New Agers, and occultists shows us why the truth movement should avoid them. It is a well-known fact that these same esoteric organizations have openly stated that they wish to indoctrinate the public with their esoteric religious ideas and externalize their views to humanity, eventually resulting in a new world order for the age of Aquarius, which they all await with anticipation. Let me qualify this. As Theosophy grew, it produced another prominent woman named Alice Bailey, born June 6, 1880. She is one of the most influential Theosophists, and it was her who was responsible for convincing New Agers that humanity needs to make a one-world government and one-world religion for the age of Aquarius. In order to achieve this system, she deemed it necessary to teach humanity the religion of Theosophy and Freemasonry, the same doctrines that Zeitgeist is now spreading. Speaking on the spiritual war between esotericists and people who refuse to accept the New Age, she says, quote, "It will be fought largely with mental weapons and in the world of thought. It will involve also the emotional realm from the standpoint of idealistic fanaticism. This inherent fanaticism will fight against the appearance of the coming world religion and the spread of esotericism. It must not be forgotten that only those souls who are on the probationary path, or the path of discipleship, will form the nucleus of the coming world religion. There is no question, therefore, that the work to be done in familiarizing the general public with the nature of the mysteries is of paramount importance at this time. When the Great One comes with his disciples and initiates, we shall have the restoration of the mysteries and their exoteric presentation as a consequence of the first initiation." Alice Bailey also reveals that Freemasonry is meant to produce advanced occultists and is in accord with the theosophical goals. Quote, "The Masonic movement, when it can be, divorced from politics and social end from its present paralyzing condition of inertia, will meet the need of those who can and should wield power. It is the custodian of the law, it is the home of the mysteries and the seat of initiation. It holds in its symbolism the ritual of deity, and the way of salvation is pictorially preserved in its work. The methods of deity are demonstrated in its temples, and under the all-seeing eye, the work can go forward. It is a far more occult organization than can be realized, and it's intended to be the training school for the coming advanced occultists, unquote.
The main source of Zeitgeist is Acharya S. She advocates one world system under the age of Aquarius. This is very interesting as the main source that this traces back to is Alice Bailey. You can trace this to one book in particular called The Externalization of the Hierarchy, which advocates this extensively and even openly admits this in the first few pages of that volume.
In his book, The Arcana of Freemasonry, the Freemason Albert Churchward that Zeitgeist appealed to gave the following admission, quote, "Can the unity of the world be accomplished by Freemasons? Yes, and by Freemasons only." There is a common misconception about Freemasonry, and that is that many people believe it is merely a friendly fraternity where men meet up to network and socialize. This is partially true, but there are elements of Freemasonry that are not so innocent. The Freemasonic Society was infiltrated in the late 18th century by an organization called the Order of the Illuminati. There's a lot of fictional, embellished information about the Illuminati, but if you sift through all of the data, there are some very important key facts. All historians will grant that the Illuminati certainly existed in Bavaria, Germany, and that it was founded in 1776 by a man named Adam Weishaupt. This organization was a type of revolutionary organization that sought political and societal reform. The order grew and became very popular. It was then outlawed by the patriotic ruler of Bavaria, Duke Karl Theodor. He issued 3 edicts against the Illuminati, the third being in 1787. Illuminati writings were discovered after raids of castles and arrests of members. These writings were then translated from Old High German by 2 men contemporary with the Illuminati, Abe Barrel and John Robison. The writings were published in their works, Proofs of a Conspiracy and Memoirs Illustrating the History of Jacobinism. The writings revealed that the Illuminati wanted a one-world system ruled by them, the overthrow of religion, and the infiltration of Freemasonry to achieve this, so that they could operate under another name and occupation. The founder of this order, Adam Weishaupt, stated, quote, "Do you realize sufficiently what it means to rule in a secret society, not only over lesser or more important of the populace, but over the best of men, over men of all ranks, nations, and religions, to rule without external force, to unite them indissolubly, to breathe one spirit and soul into them, men distributed over all parts of the world." The prolific Freemasonic author and historian Albert Mackey reports, quote, "To give the order a higher influence, Weishaupt connected it with the Masonic institution, after whose system of degrees in esoteric instruction and of secret modes of recognition it was organized. The order at first was very popular, and enrolled no less than 2,000 names upon its registers, among whom were some of the most distinguished men of Germany. It extended rapidly into other countries, and its lodges were to be found in France, Belgium, Holland, Denmark, Sweden, Poland, Hungary, and Italy. The original design of Illuminism was undoubtedly the elevation of the human race, but it cannot be denied that in the process of time, abuses had crept into the institution, and that by the influence of unworthy men, the system became corrupted. So fused with Freemasonry in the 18th century was the doctrine of elitism and globalization, the overthrow of religion, namely Christianity. The question is, did the Illuminati cease to exist after it was outlawed in Bavaria, or did it live on? According to historians like Mackey and others, the Illuminati infiltrated Masonic lodges all over Europe before it was persecuted by the Bavarian government. So with that in mind, how could the Bavarian government stop this order? if it was already all over Europe? The answer is they couldn't have. The Illuminati was too big, and thus it continued under Freemasonry. The French historian Henry Martin reports, quote, Vicept proposed as the end of Illuminism the abolition of property, social authority, nationality, and the return of the human race to the happy state in which it formed only a single family, without artificial needs, without useless sciences, every father being priest and magistrate. President George Washington himself was convinced that the Illuminati existed after 1785, when it was outlawed in Bavaria. He corresponded with the Reverend named G.W. Snyder, voicing his concerns about the Illuminati. This was written 13 years after the Illuminati was outlawed in Bavaria. George Washington states, quote, I have heard much of the nefarious and dangerous plans and doctrines of the Illuminati. It was not my intention to doubt that the doctrines of the Illuminati and the principles of Jacobinism had not spread in the United States. On the contrary, no one is more truly satisfied of this fact than I am. The idea that I meant to convey was that I did not believe that the lodges of Freemasons in this country had, as societies, endeavored to propagate the diabolical tenets of the first or the pernicious principles of the latter if they are susceptible of separation, that individuals of them may have done it, or that the founder or instrument employed to found the democratic societies in the United States may have had these objects and actually had the separation of people from their government in view is too evident to be questioned. From President Washington, we learned that he believed the Illuminati was nefarious and dangerous. He had little doubt about the Illuminati spreading to America by 1798. He was truly satisfied, or in other words, convinced of this fact. He thought it was too early for whole Masonic lodges to be striving for Illuminati objectives, but he did believe individuals within American lodges were certainly doing so. He believed the founder or instrument used to found the democratic societies in the USA may have had Illuminati objectives in mind, and that they had the separation of the people from their government in view. According to Washington, these things are too evident to be questioned. That same year, the president of Yale University, Timothy Dwight IV, spoke out against the Illuminati. Quote, the great and good ends proposed by the Illuminati as the ultimate objects of their union are the overthrow of religion, government, and human society, civil and domestic. Joseph Willard, the president of Harvard University, said in a speech in New Hampshire, quote, there is sufficient evidence that a number of societies of the Illuminati have been established in this land of gospel light and civil liberty, which were first organized from the Grand Society in France. They are doubtless secretly striving to undermine all our ancient institutions, civil and sacred. These societies are closely leagued with those of the same order in Europe. They have all the same objects in view. The enemies of all order are seeking our ruin. Should infidelity generally prevail, our independence would fall, of course. Our republican government would be annihilated. Speaking on this new Freemasonry that was infiltrated by Illuminati elitist doctrines, John Quincy Adams, the 6th President of the United States, remarked, quote, I do conscientiously and sincerely believe that the order of Freemasonry, if not the greatest, is one of the greatest moral and political evils. Because this Illuminati doctrine of globalization and societal reform was fused into Freemasonry, later prominent Masons started voicing their anticipation of a new world order, one world system.
Freemasonry is just one of many ways to get people into the occult. But even more than that, it's able to get them into a really sort of packaged way to produce people that can be used in a more mechanical way in the system. That is, that they can be put into places of power to turn a lot of the gears and things like that.
Let me demonstrate that the high levels of Freemasonry and Theosophy are now simultaneously striving for a new world order, one world religion. Their dogma is that for the upcoming age of Aquarius, humanity needs to unite into a one world government or new world order. The former Supreme Grand Master of the Fraternity of the Rosy Cross, or FRC, Reuben Swinburne Clymer, wrote in his work Ancient Mystic Oriental Freemasonry, quote, "Mystic Masonry is not only the key to the religion taught to all men in all ages from the very beginning of conscious life up to the present, but it holds the keys to these religious and is, in fact, the very repository of religion itself. It has for its object the uniting of mankind into a universal brotherhood." The 19th and 20th century Freemason and Rosicrucian Arthur Edward Waite admitted that secret societies he was involved with control political, scientific, and religious affairs. Waite believed that these societies always existed in every nation and are connected to modern societies, which I believe can be disputed. But nonetheless, he stated the following in his work, The Real History of the Rosicrucians, quote, "Beneath the broad tide of human history, there flow the stealthy undercurrents of the secret societies, which frequently determine in the depths the changes that take place upon the surface. These societies have existed in all ages and among all nations, and tradition has invariably ascribed to them the possession of important knowledge in the religious, scientific, or political order, according to the various character of their pretensions," unquote. The official Freemasonic Scottish Rite magazine, entitled The New Age Magazine, admits that it is for a New World Order, New World Religion, and New Age. Quote, "Great God our King has chosen the great American public schools to pave the way for the new race, the new religion, and the new civilization that is taking place in America. Any mother, father, or guardian who is responsible for the taking away of the freedom of mind, freedom of will, or freedom of spirit is the lowest criminal on earth, because they take away from that child the God-given right to become part of God's great plan in America for the dawn of the new age of the world." 33rd degree Freemason Manly Palmer Hall advocated world government, quote, "The new Atlantis sets forth an ideal government of the earth. It foretells that day when in the midst of men there shall rise up a vast institution composed of the philosophic elect, an order of illumined men band together for the purpose of investigating the laws of life and the mysteries of the universe. The age of boundaries is closing, and we are approaching a nobler era when nations shall be no more, when the lines of race and caste shall be wiped out, when the whole earth shall be under one order, one government, one administrative body," unquote. Alice Bailey, the prominent theosophist, stated, quote, "The new era is coming. The new ideals, the new civilization, the new modes of life, of education, of religious presentation, and of government are slowly precipitating, and nothing can stop them." N. Sri Ram, a prominent theosophist and New World Order advocate, stated, quote, "Let us first consider the restoration of the mysteries. It is well known among members of the co-Masonic movement that its work has been faithfully continued up to the present, and that its number of lodges has steadily increased. I imagine that at such an auspicious time, when the inner and outer worlds will have come much nearer together, some of the great leaders of the hierarchy might take part in the outer work of reconstruction and will then become the recognized leaders of the new world government," unquote.
Now, this was written by Manly P. Hall. Manly P. Hall was both a Grand Master within Freemasonry, and he was a Grand Master in the Illuminati. And he says, "All of sincere heart will find consolation in the conviction that powers beyond and above human corruption continue to administer the destiny of the globe. It would be a mistake to confuse the governing bodies with the various sects which pretend to authority but give no indication or proof that they can manage efficiently even their own affairs." Now, Manly P. Hall knows who he's referring to here because he's part of that secret body. But of course, he speaks positively of it.
The Zeitgeist films and movement have more ties to Theosophy and Freemasonry. At just 2 minutes into the second Zeitgeist film, Zeitgeist Addendum, a lecture of a man by the name of Jiddu Krishnamurti is played. Jiddu spent much of his childhood in southern India. Jiddu's father was a member of the Theosophical Society in southern India. When Jiddu was a boy, he was discovered by the Theosophist C.W. Ledbetter, Ledbetter was a man who was brought up on charges of immoral behavior with young boys, yet he still had a close relationship with the president of Theosophy, Annie Besant. Ledbetter and Besant would adopt Jiddu and take him to England. They raised him and brainwashed him into the Theosophic esoteric teachings. They were convinced that he was their return of the Christ and that he would lead humanity into the age of Aquarius as the world teacher for the New Age. Jiddu thought he was the Christ for many years due to being brainwashed, and he would give lectures speaking with authority on esoteric and occult matters. However, Jiddu became reluctant and after many years decided not to be the Christ of Theosophy. He was a false Christ, and he later departed from Theosophy. He did retain connection with Theosophists and devoted the later part of his life to giving lectures on New Age spirituality. He authored many books on the subject as well. The fact that Zeitgeist would include this man in their film, knowing his deep connection with Theosophy, should demonstrate to everyone the New Age esoteric nature of the Zeitgeist films and movement. One of the main claims of Zeitgeist is that the gospel story of Jesus is derived from the stories of previous pagan gods. They attempt to draw parallels between Jesus and these other gods to try to show that the story of Jesus is just a copycat story. Subsequently, these claims have all been debunked by scholars and historians. Zeitgeist appealed to Acharya S. for this theory. These claims can be found in her book, The Christ Conspiracy. Interestingly, it was the founder of Theosophy, Helena Blavatsky, and the Marxist Theosophist Annie Besant who popularized these types of arguments and inserted them into the New Age movement. The emphasis is removing uniqueness from Jesus Christ in Christianity because to the New Ager, humanity is leaving Jesus' age of Pisces, which they believe is now evil. According to them, many people are still stuck believing in Christianity, holding the world back from their new spirituality. So what better way to fix this problem than to discredit the avatar of the previous Piscean age, Jesus Christ? They will even go as far as to say Jesus never existed in order to lead people away from Christianity. Thus, the masses are now on board with the new Aquarian world order. Even modern New Agers around today will utilize this deception. New Age spokesman and disciple of Alice Bailey and Theosophy, Benjamin Creme, states, quote, "The 5 major initiations which take one to liberation have their symbolic enactment in the life of Jesus. That is what the gospel story is really about. It is a very ancient story and has been presented to mankind again and again in different forms long before the time of Jesus," unquote. When one compares Acharya S.'s book, The Christ Conspiracy, to Helena Blavatsky's book, Isis Unveiled Volume 2, it becomes quite clear where Acharya got much of her material. For extensive rebuttals to this copycat thesis, see the following books, videos, and articles. The 3 things that Zeitgeist adopts from Theosophy and Freemasonry with respect to theology are 1. The belief that the story of Jesus was copied from other religions, 2. That Jesus is a representation of the sun, and 3. That Jesus ushered in the age of Pisces. It makes sense why Theosophists would spread these views, because they want a world system for the age of Aquarius, and in discrediting Christianity and connecting Jesus to astrology, they can get apostate Christians on board. But why then does Zeitgeist spread this propaganda? Interestingly, the creator of Zeitgeist, Peter Joseph, has wanted a world system or utopia paradise on Earth since the release of the first Zeitgeist film.
And as far as the spiritual aspect of life, we're all pure spirituality. Of course there's something outside of understanding because we're just a fragment inside this larger whole. I end Zeitgeist with a very positive note. We're talking about the consciousness, the whole consciousness, because you can scientifically orient yourself and even more importantly, spiritually orient yourself into a collective consciousness to realize that we're all one organism. And the moment people stop dividing themselves up and generating religious division, political division, the moment people stop fighting amongst themselves is the moment paradise will dawn.
Similarly, Zeitgeist's main source, Acharya S., has advocated the New Age of Aquarius that the elitist Theosophists and Freemasons await in her 1999 work, The Christ Conspiracy, quote, "But the future is now, and the maneuvers are being unveiled. As far as Christianity's role in this new age," Carpenter states, quote, Christianity, therefore, as I say, must either now come frankly forward and acknowledge its parentage from the great order of the past, seek to rehabilitate that, and carry mankind one step forward in the path of evolution, or else it must perish. There is no alternative. Despite the vilification of the so-called New Age movement, the fact is that we are entering into a new age. The age referred to in the gospel tale is that of Pisces, and through contrivance and duplicity, coercion and slaughter, the fish god Jesus, the Piscean solar avatar, has indeed been with us. But now it is the close of the age, and his time is over. As Hancock says, we live today in an astrological no man's land, at the end of the age of Pisces, on the threshold of the new age of Aquarius. Traditionally, these times of transition between one age and the next have been regarded as ill-omened. Ill-omened verily, as the ongoing destruction of the earth and the endless warfare over ideology will indeed produce the Armageddon so long awaited and planned by those who cannot live for today but must look towards an afterlife. By realizing the cultural unity revealed behind the Christ conspiracy, however, humanity can pull together and prevent this fall to create a better world. 75 years before Zeitgeist's main source Acharya S. penned that admission, the former president of Theosophy, Annie Besant, wrote something almost exactly the same, quote, "The equinox will reach the sign of Aquarius, coinciding the great cycle of influence. We can indeed hope to put a complete end to all the influence of the past cycle, with its tyranny, slavery, war, and cruelty. This is one of the great transitional epochs, and the karma before humanity as a whole, and to every group in particular, is to reform itself from slavery, female subjection, war, and cruelty, and establish a civilization based on humanness and interest in spiritual matters." New Age author Gail Fairfield explains what is expected for the supposed upcoming age of Aquarius. She states, quote, "The sign of Aquarius is the sign of focused concepts. It concentrates intently on developing its ideas and then applies them to the betterment of humankind. It has talent for rapidly correlating all the information available into a political, ethical, spiritual, technological system. Aquarius creates optimal features for individuals and for humanity because it needs alternatives, possibilities, and something to move towards. Overall, Aquarius is a reformer and visionary working to create its utopia," unquote. Isn't it interesting that right after Zeitgeist promoted the Aquarian New Age concepts in the first Zeitgeist film, the second film, Zeitgeist Addendum, then goes on to convince its followers to strive for a similar Aquarian one-world system, New World Order, called the Venus Project? Indeed, the solution offered by the film Zeitgeist Addendum is that humanity needs to unite into the very same thing that Theosophy and Freemasonry wants it to unite into: a one-world universal esoteric brotherhood of humanity, a new world order.
I think that the coming new system that the occultists speak of it's really crucial to understand that what they're talking about is not going to look like what we think the New World Order's control grid will look like. They believe that the utopia will be one of a spiritual utopia, one that's free of wars and religion. It's easy for a lot of people to have idealistic views about it.
They're going to make it sound wonderful, which is what like the Zeitgeist Addendum particularly does in the second part, where they talk about, oh, we're going to like, you know, have free energy, we're going to provide your needs. There's been talk about erasing all debts. That's more the Venus Project is more what is it Jacques Vallée? Jacques Fresco. That's more what he's into. Okay, this is his utopian approach to the New World Order, where I literally heard him say on the addendum, where he said, "We'll have no laws. All laws will be done away with." I thought to myself, all law? I mean, nobody's going to have to work. It's just going to sound like wonderful. I mean, he's talking about how are people going to make livings? Well, you won't have to, and you can do whatever you want. And if you make a painting, you can give it to some. I mean, this utopian world, but it's going to come at an extremely high price regarding the mark of the beast. It's not going to be what they're cracking it up to be, and most likely, it's only going to come with massive depopulation, and they're going to probably try to pull that off a number of different ways. But you have the Zeitgeist, this utopian approach, and then you also have the way the Ascended Master, some of the Ascended Masters say will be done through a project called Nasera, which, is very similar in what the Zeitgeist Addenda talks about. It's just kind of a different flavor of it all. So which one they're actually going to be able to pull off, if the Lord lets them do it, it's kind of up to the Lord. It's hard to say which way it'll go.
The Venus Project looks like Francis Bacon's New Atlantis, this concept that has been with the occult realm for a long time. Whether they call it the New Atlantis or whether they call it some coming utopia or some Platonic version of the New Age, the New World Order, a lot of people, those terms were viewed in a completely different context that I think a lot of us in the truth movement see the New World Order. It's a totally different thing that they're hoping will happen. And I think that we can be in danger if we think that the New World Order is just going to be a police state control grid, which I think it will be, but I think it will be in the context of a lot of supernatural things going on. So it's going to look like the old world order is gone. And in doing so, it's going to be exactly what those like Francis Bacon and all the others have mentioned. This New World Order is going to be proposed to look just like the Venus Project, but I can tell you that won't be the case for very long. It might be right at the beginning, but not as it goes on.
According to the New Agers, Theosophists, as well as many elitists and Freemasons, there exists a group of highly evolved men and women called the Masters of Wisdom. These powerful groups claim that Buddha, Krishna, Muhammad, and Jesus were all masters of wisdom, and that a being named Maitreya is the leader of these beings, who in turn is subject to the true leader, Sanat Kumara. New Age Theosophist Dane Rudhar concedes that the leader of the Masters, Sanat Kumara, is in fact Satan, according to the esotericists. Quote, Satan is an anagram for Sanat Kumara, who in the esoteric philosophy of India is the Promethean being who gave mankind the fire of self-conscious and independent individual selfhood, unquote. John Michael Greer in the New Encyclopedia of the Occult notes, quote, Satan has a possible echo in theosophic lore, where the Lord of the world, the spiritual ruler of the earth, and the head of the Great White Lodge is Sanat Kumara, a lord of the flame who descended to earth from Venus in a fiery chariot some 6 million years ago, unquote. Helena Blavatsky taught her students that it is actually Satan who is God, the Messiah, and that Jehovah is the evil one. She stated, quote, It is but natural, even from the dead letter standpoint, to view Satan, the serpent of Genesis, as the real creator and benefactor, the father of spiritual mankind. For it is he who was the harborer of light, bright radiant Lucifer, who opened the eyes of the automation created by Jehovah, as alleged, and he who was the first to whisper, In the day ye eat thereof, ye shall be as Elohim, knowing good and evil, can only be regarded in the light of a savior, an adversary to Jehovah, the personating spirit. He still remains in esoteric truth, the ever-loving messenger, the angel, the seraphim and cherubim, who both knew well and loved still more, and who conferred on us spiritual instead of physical immortality. The Theosophist H. Alexander Fusel seeks to deify Satan, quote, Satan, then, was originally a divine being destined to carry light and life to the netherworlds. He stands for the gift of free will and self-conscious mind to man, a power which at once seduces and uplifts man, for with free will comes the power to go astray. Satan is therefore man's teacher, unquote.
Once you are willing to give worship to Satan is when you are given a certain kind of power that the deceived, those that are just thinking it's them or thinking that something else, can't have access to. So Freemasonry is a systematic way to get people to that level without actually just coming out and saying it right at first.
One of the former leaders of the Theosophical Society, who was contemporary with Blavatsky and Annie Besant, tells us what the 19th century position on Satan is. In his work Spiritualism, Madame Blavatsky, and Theosophy, Rudolf Steiner states, quote, Lucifer is not a being that we can see with our present-day physical eyes. Lucifer can be seen only with the awakened clairvoyance. Seen clairvoyantly, in fact, Lucifer is a particular being who was left behind during the moon phase of evolution, unquote. N. Sri Ram, who often gave lectures at the United Nations, a major theosophist and writer for Lucifer magazine, clarifies, quote, "The adversary, or Satan, is no other than Lucifer, the light-bearer, the bright morning star. He is the initiator, awakening the divine faculties of intellect on man. He is the king of the fallen angels, spirits from higher spheres, who descended among primitive mankind of the third race to develop in man and endow him with his self-conscious mind, or manas," unquote. Theosophy teaches that Satan or Lucifer is actually a divine being who saves humankind and brings him consciousness. Many modern influential New Agers who are deceived by Theosophy repeat the same theme. David Spangler admits that Lucifer is a being that New Agers honor, and the light of Lucifer is the light of God. Quote, "The true light of Lucifer cannot be seen through sorrow, through darkness, through rejection. The true light of this great being can only be recognized when one's own eyes can see with the light of the Christ, the light of the inner sun. Lucifer works within each of us, trying to bring us to wholeness. And as we move into a new age, which is the age of man's wholeness, each of us, in some way, is brought to that point which I term the Luciferic initiation, the particular doorway through which the individual must pass if he is to come fully into the presence of his light and his wholeness. Lucifer comes to give us the final gift of wholeness. If we accept it, then he is free, and we are free. That is the Luciferic initiation. It is one that many people now, and in the days ahead, will be facing, for it is an initiation into the new age. It is an initiation of leaving the past and moving into the new, shedding our guilts and fears, our anxieties, our needs, our temptations, and becoming whole and at peace, because we have recognized our inner light and the light that enfolds us, the light of God," unquote. So indeed, the Luciferian doctrine is fused into the New Age movement due to Theosophy. Along with this doctrine is the belief that because of Satan, man is now thinking he will evolve, conquer the world, conquer nature, and become a god. The Freemason W.L. Wilmhurst bolstered the fact that Freemasonry is aimed at creating god men. The purpose of initiation is attaining godhood, he states, quote, "The height of the lodge, even as high as the heavens, implies the range of consciousness possible to us. When we have developed our potentialities to the full is infinite. Man who has sprung from the earth and developed through the lower kingdoms of nature to his present rational state has yet to complete his evolution by becoming a godlike being and unifying his consciousness with the omniscient, to promote which is and always has been the sole aim and purpose of all initiation," unquote.
Danny and Englewood, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Yeah, you're going to take this the wrong way, Peter J., director of Zeitgeist, but what you just said sounds exactly like Satanism. Not saying that you are satanic.
I don't believe in Satanism. If you want to use that word,
you know what Satanism
that's your own, that's
you know
your
what
own idea.
Satanism is? Atheists. People who do not believe in a God. People who believe that man is a God. That's what
Yeah, that's
Satanism
correct.
is.
You are God.
Okay, then you are a Satanist.
You are God. You are God. You are God.
Okay, can you tell us about Benjamin Creme, Maitreya, and the Ascended Masters?
Okay, well, Benjamin Creme was born in 1922, and in 1959 he was contacted by one of the masters, Ascended Masters. They don't really get real specific who actually contacted him first, but what they did is asked him if he wanted to participate in this coming, where he would actually talk about and be kind of like the John the Baptist for the coming Maitreya, as they called him. And he accepted, and in 1975 he started Share International, which is kind of like the mouthpiece for who they call Lord Maitreya. And in 1977, Maitreya actually made, according to them, his physical appearance, where he came from the Himalayas, and supposedly he occupied a body, came in on a plane from the Himalayas, and they even used that whole thing about him coming from the Himalayas in 1977 to say that this fulfills the Bible scriptures where it said he will come in the clouds, which is such a joke. But so Maitreya has really been, or Benjamin Creme has really been, like, again, the kind of like the false version of John the Baptist for Maitreya ever since, really. He's went around, lectured. He lectures at different various occult groups. He lectures at Masonic halls and these types of things, places where he feels comfortable at. And he's been trying to herald in Maitreya for a long time. They've made many predictions where, they said, okay, he's most likely going to appear within this time frame, and most of the time they've just got everything wrong. So they'll say, well, he could appear any moment, but we don't really know when.
The New Age religion, folks, is going to have a worldwide leader, a charismatic political and religious leader that they call Lord Maitreya. At least so far that's who they call him, or that's what they call him. This individual, as far as I know, has not made his public appearance yet, but the New Agers claim that he is on the earth at the present time. They claim that he came to live with the Asian community in East London, England, in July 1977 by descending from his ancient retreat in the Himalaya mountains along the border of India and Tibet. They further believe that his imminent emergence into full public view is assured. They also claim that this individual is the one that the Christians call Christ, the Jews call the Messiah, the Buddhists call the fifth Buddha, the Hindus call Krishna, and the Muslims call the Imam Mahdi. In other words, all of the major religions of the world are awaiting the arrival of this one individual. And they say that he is on the earth now, patiently waiting for the appointed time to reveal his existence to the peoples of the world. They say that he will apparently assume the leadership of all of these religions, and when he does, he will create a one-world religion. The New Agers have written that in the esoteric tradition, previously defined as being intended for or understood by only a chosen few as an inner group of disciples or initiates, in other words, the esoteric means hidden. They claim that the word Christ is not the name of an individual, but the name of an office or function within the spiritual hierarchy of masters. They claim that the masters are a group of perfected men who have guided human evolution from behind the scenes for centuries, and they believe that this Lord Maitreya is that Christ. Now, Manly P. Hall has written of this individual by identifying him as, quote, the way, the truth, and the life, which coming to every life redeems all who accept it, unquote.
Since Jiddu Krishnamurti, featured in Zeitgeist Addendum, failed as the world teacher responsible for ushering in the Age of Aquarius one-world system, Theosophists, Freemasons, and occultists have been waiting for their world teacher since then. Well, on January 9th, 1959, a student of Alice Bailey and Blavatsky, who was already familiar with the doctrine of the Ascended Masters, Benjamin Creme, would come into contact with powerful forces who would appoint him to introduce Maitreya, the world teacher, to humanity. Creme's first experience is as follows. On January 3rd, 1959, Creme became possessed by an energy, and a message from an outside force said to him, "Go to Blackfriars Bridge, south side, Blackheath side, on January 9th, 9:30 p.m. So on January 9th, 1959, Benjamin Creme followed these instructions and crossed Blackfriars Bridge in London, walking to the south side. There was no one about. It was deserted. There was a car waiting at the far end of the bridge. He walked beside the car and looked inside of it. There were some people in it who he did not know, but one of them was a man who told him he had been receiving messages from the Ascended Masters. From there, Creme started receiving messages again from this force, who he now believed were these Ascended Masters that Theosophy invented. This entity told Creme to pull out his tape recorder. It began giving Creme long dictations, which he repeated into the tape recorder. The entity said, "Now our master Maitreya himself has something important to tell you." Creme then claimed to be overshadowed by Maitreya, this leader of the Ascended Masters. In a sense, he was possessed by Maitreya. Krem claims that the experience was that of total identification with everything and everybody in the world, a kind of universal experience such as he had never felt. He was filled with a foreign tremendous energy. Krem claimed to have seen a vision of himself in the future, as well as Maitreya, the world teacher, who ushers in the age of Aquarius, one world system. Later he was instructed that he would help introduce Maitreya to the world. Since then, Krem started an organization called Share International. They have a website as well. It is aimed at promoting Maitreya and the teachings of Theosophy and the New Age. Krem admitted that he was influenced by Helena Blavatsky and Alice Bailey, quote, "To many today, this awareness includes the recognition of higher states of consciousness attained by those who make up the emerging spiritual kingdom, the masters and initiates of the world. Their existence was first revealed in modern time by H.P. Blavatsky, co-founder of the Theosophical Society, as long ago as 1875. A more detailed communication about the masters and their work was given by Alice A. Bailey between 1919 and 1949. In her book, The Externalization of the Hierarchy, she revealed the existence of a planned return to physical plane work and activity by this group of enlightened men, which return, I submit, has already begun."
I think that what Blavatsky wrote down, even by her own admission, was not written by an ascended master, and I don't think that ascended masters exist. She was being deceived. Regardless of what we think, we have to at least believe her and the others involved in the high levels of the Theosophic movement, that what they got, the core levels, their secret doctrine, was given to them by off-world entities. The research becomes, who are these off-world entities? And this is the other part of that research. Is what those entities said true or not? I understand that it's very poetic. It's very easy and seductive to believe, because when you read some of her stuff or some of the other stuff that's written directly from demonic entities, it's extremely seductive. We must understand that these beings are thousands of years older than us, and they're very smart. We're no match for them. The smartest of us are no match for the intellect of them, but their desire is to deceive us. So we are outmatched in this regard. So that's why it's seductive when we read it.
The most current thing that they're doing right now has been since last December, this supposed star sign, which is really, again, they just try to knock off from the Bible as much as they possibly can. This is like a knockoff of the Star of Bethlehem in the Bible. And in that, they're saying that there's going to be these, what they call star-like luminaries in the sky. 4 of them that are in different quadrants of the earth. They're 5 times the size of a football field, according to them. And people are seeing these things, and they've got a whole, up on shareinternational.org, they've got a whole section devoted to this, where people are sending in pictures, there's stars, and what they are spaceships. That's what they're admitting to at this point. And more people are seeing them, but evidently this is going to be the thing that really, really heralds in Maitreya, up until they have the day of declaration when he makes his public emergence.
And this is supposed to be on the major media?
Yes. When he makes his big debut, what they've said is they've already secured an interview with a major US TV network, and then one in Japan, I believe, as well. So during this time, he's going to, the day of declaration, supposedly he's going to basically telepathically communicate with masses and masses of people. They supposedly will hear them in their own language. They'll be able to comprehend him. Supposedly they'll feel this infinite love. And there will be many also supposed miraculous healings taking place around the world at the same time. And most likely, this day of declaration will come on the heels of some or multiple cataclysmic events, most likely the first thing being an economic meltdown, which is what he's predicted way back from the 90s. I think for maximum impact, if it came on the heels of not only an economic meltdown, but let's say a false flag nuclear event and or swine flu, one of those things, or World War III, which they're saying, Benjamin Krem says, Maitreya is the only one that can broker a deal where he can get the Palestinians and the Muslims and the Jews to play nice and kind of get on the same playing field. according to Benjamin Krem, he's the only one that can do it. And again, then we look at Daniel 9:27, where we talk about confirming the covenant. He seems to be about the only one that I think could possibly pull it off. But well, kind of remains to be seen.
And what does Maitreya promise? What does he want to achieve? What are his goals?
Well, if you look at the word Share International, which is the name of the site, if you read what he says, he wants the world resource sharing of the world. He doesn't want there to be any, supposedly, any inequalities of the world. You look at what he says that he is. He says that he is the Christ that the Christians are expecting, the Messiah the Jews are expecting, the fifth Buddha the Buddhists are expecting, Krishna the Hindus are expecting, and Imam Mahdi that the Muslims. So he's kind of everything rolled up into one. He's like the total package. He's going to give and be able to unite and put all of the various and different religious systems, the major religious systems, all on the same page. And the Bible says that when the Antichrist comes, he's going to come with all lying, power, signs, and wonders. And he's going to deceive the whole world by which the miracles that he's going to do. So he's taking credit for every single miracle that's going on right now, whether it's a Marian apparition, which would be to him the ascended Master Mary, because he's got a whole band of masters that he's going to be coming with. And so he's taking credit for everything. Every miracle that you're seeing going on in the world right now, whether it's a Catholic miracle, whether it's some type of energizing of water, whether it's some bleeding statue, whether it's some Hindu miracle, crosses of light, they've seen those in different and various churches. He's taking credit for all of that. And I think what we're going to see and what he says we're going to see, in fact, I just read this in their last report, Benjamin Krem has said also with the UFO sightings, he says they're going to increase up until the time when he makes his emergence. And he's going to come on the scene. He's going to be able to explain all of this and try to put everybody on the same page.
My personal belief is that the Antichrist, or the world teacher, will seem to actually be Christ, in the sense that he will seem to destroy some old system and some old bad leader. And I think that it will somehow be tied to, I don't know, this is my guess, but it will somehow be tied to some sort of fake or alien invasion or presence of some sort. I don't know if Maitreya fits all those characteristics, but I wouldn't doubt it for 1 minute if he was. My personal opinion is that Krem is somebody who is being talked to by entities and is doing what he's told to be doing. But you have to understand, a lot of times with people that are channeling entities like that, they oftentimes do and say things that don't come true, because the demons themselves don't know when. They're still on a timeline that they can't tell when something's going to happen. So they're always keeping something ready to happen in case when they finally can. So in the case of that, like if you look at the Blossom Goodchild thing and these ideas that were consistently put out by channeled entities and things, it never came to pass because they don't have control over the timeline. They just have to always be ready.